Check us out to hear the latest on life in the volunteer state. Yvonnca and her guests discuss everything from life, love, and business with a Tennessee flair.
It's a Tennessee thing.
Always relatable, always relevant, and always a good time. This is Talking Tennessee, and now your host, Yvonnca.
This episode is brought to you by the Landes team, your go-to real estate family in East Tennessee. If you are looking to buy or sell, we are the ones you should call. Give us a call at 865-660-1186 or check out our website at YvoncaSellsRealEstate.com. That's Yvonnca, YVONNCA, sellsrealestate.com.
Welcome back to Talking Tennessee with Yvonnca. I am your host, and I am here with Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Most definitely, most definitely. I have wanted to do this interview for months because I just wanted to say, you know what? I know it's probably hard out here right now with everything that's going on in the world. I wanted people to know who Glenn Jacobs is. Can you tell me who Glenn Jacobs is?
That's a great question. I'm a husband, a dad, a grandfather, a son, a brother. I am an athlete, used to be, much better than I am now. I have a degree in English from college. This is weird. I'm a very introverted person, actually. I keep on picking these careers where I have to be on the public spotlight, something I'm actually not really that comfortable with. I like to read. I like to spend time with my family. I love dogs. So I guess I'm kind of a multifaceted Renaissance person, if you will.
Yes.
Maybe.
Well, it sounds like that there's so many different parts to you but you want to offer the best parts that you can, even with having a introvert personality. God is making you come out of that shell. You know, either you come out or God will bring you out. That's the one thing about it. But when I was researching about you and reading your story, I was like, okay, so who is this person? You know, where is he from? So I read that you're from Spain.
Well, I was born in Spain. My dad was in the Air Force. Yes, I was born at Torrejon Air Base in Madrid, Spain. I wasn't there very long, though. The family came back to the U.S. less than a year after I was born. My dad went to Vietnam, where he was in country. He was in the Air Force at the time, as I said, and he was a loadmaster in the C-130 cargo planes. I'm I was born in Spain. I'm actually, once again, attempting to learn Spanish. Okay. Because I do not speak Spanish, again, because it left when I was so little. And at various points in my life, I'm like, I need to learn Spanish, and I'm once again doing that. I'm doing better this time. Yes. But it's a little ironic that I was born in Spain, and actually the worst grade I ever got in school was in Spanish 2 in college.
Well, let me just say, you're not the only one. I tried to learn it twice, and it just didn't work out. So, the big question, how'd you make it to East Tennessee?
I actually came here for work, for wrestling. There was an organization called Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They were based in Morristown. Okay. I moved here in late 1994, right around Christmas time, but I always say 95 since it was so close to the end of the year. Lived in Morristown for a while, met my wife. She grew up in Johnson City, graduated from Elizabethton High School. So lived up in Johnson City for maybe about a year or so, then came back down closer to Knoxville. My wife's family owned Cowboys Restaurant, which is on Douglas Lake, which is kind of a landmark there for many years. So moved down so she could help my mother-in-law at the restaurant. Lived out in Jefferson County probably 16 years or so, and then eventually ended up moving to Knox County just because we were always here doing stuff in Knoxville. So a little more convenient.
But so let me ask you this. What gave you the thrill, or what made you want to go into wrestling?
So I'd always been a casual fan of wrestling. Mm-hmm. Okay, when I was growing up, I was playing college football, and looked like I might have been able to play in the National Football League, but unfortunately, I say unfortunately in quotes, I suffered a very severe knee injury. I tore my ACL as well as damaged cartilage and meniscus in my left knee during practice. and couldn't play football anymore, at least not at that level, and still wanted to do something involving sports and athletics, and just is one of those things that kind of fell into the wrestling gig, and that turned out very well for me.
Yes, very well.
And for me, it's one of those life lessons of how, God has a bigger plan, right?
He does.
And also, when one door closes, another door opens.
Most definitely.
And also, things that we think are the worst thing that could happen to us actually turn out to be the best thing that could have happened.
That's
to
true.
us. And that was true in my case.
Well, viewers, I met Mayor Jacobs at Ice Bears game. For the ones that know about David's blood drive that we do every year, the Ice Bears has us come out to drop the puck. And so we come out to drop the puck, and we met Mayor Jacobs there. And I'll never forget, my son, was wanting to meet you, but was so scared to meet you at the same time because he saw this big old man standing there. And so I'll never forget you taking a picture with him, and Jaden is standing there like, okay, should I smile? Should I not? But you were so gracious to Jaden, and so thank you for that. But tell me this, what can you say in wrestling that you learned that you took to the next life of politics that helped you? What did you learn in probably the discipline?
Well, it's the discipline, but it's also, and I was talking with someone about this the other day. He worked for a major corporation. He was an executive for the district here in East Tennessee, and everything's politics.
It is.
I mean,
it is.
Anytime you have more than one person dealing with something, anytime you're working on a project or have a team or at work, anywhere, it's all politics. And
it is.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. Sometimes politics gets a bad rap. What I mean by that, it's all interpersonal relationship skills and how you can relate to people, how you treat them.
I do agree.
In government politics, a lot of it is how do you persuade people that what you want to do is the right thing to do.
Right.
And it's the same in wrestling, actually. You have to be able to get along with everybody if you want to. It's despite the fact that you're an individual, it's still a team sport, right?
It is.
And if you want to be able to get ahead, you have to be able to get along with people. You have to be a good teammate. You have to show whatever organization that you're working for that you bring value.
Yes,
and a lot of people
agree.
think, and you know this from real estate,
yes,
it's not about what they can do for you. It's about what you can do for them.
Correct.
And once you understand that, it really is a complete paradigm shift as to how you treat people and what your expectations are.
So in wrestling, being a leader, you were in wrestling how many years?
Almost 30.
Almost 30 years. So you were a leader for a long amount of time. What can you say to the viewers about one or two things that you would say as a leader, you have to do these two things to be able to be a leader? Because it's great to say, I lead this, I lead that, or my title's this, my title's that. But when you get down to, the very solid part of leadership, you've got to have qualities to be a leader. Everybody's not a leader.
I think the first thing we have to recognize is that position and title and leadership are not the same thing. Okay, you can have the position, you can have a title, and that's great, but you may not be a leader. One of my favorite authors in this area is John Maxwell, and he writes a lot about
John
that
Maxwell.
And how you have different levels of leadership. The lowest level is position. You just have you're a leader because of the position you're in, but that doesn't mean you're effective at all. True. So people need to understand that just because someone calls you the boss, you have a title and all that, it doesn't mean you're a leader. Okay.
I tell people to not. Yes, we have titles. Yes, we have positions. But you make the position and the title to what it needs to be, okay? If you make it wrong, what does that really mean? Right. People get so caught up into the titles, and I'm like, but what difference are you making in that position? And I just truly believe that a leader needs to be able to lead in an effective way. I feel like that a leader needs to know how to deal with conflict and have a resolution. You can't stay on the conflict. You have to resolve it some kind of way. And sometimes you just got to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because
Very
there's
true.
times that you can't just argue so much that it's like beating against a wall. You have to finally say, you know what, we can agree to disagree and let it not get so personal. But I do think in politics, a lot of times that people make it personal, and we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But let me ask you this. So in the wrestling, what made you finally, so you came out of wrestling, you know, with an injury, but what made you want to be a mayor?
I've lived an exceptional life. I grew up in rural northeast Missouri. As I said, my dad's retired military. My mom was a homemaker. Growing up, we didn't have a whole lot. I mean, you know, we never went without food or shelter, but Dad had problems finding jobs when he initially got out of the military, and it was just times would get kind of tough. Yeah. And from there, I was able to find a career that I was good at, use my God-given skills and talents to travel the world, entertain millions of people all around the world, provide a living for my family that I wouldn't have thought possible when I was a kid. And when I think about how could that happen for someone like me, how could someone like me who grew up in pretty humble beginnings, there are people that grew up much more modest than I did and have gone on to do greater things than I ever will.
But it's still humble beginnings.
But still, how is that? I think it's the American dream. I found something I was good at. I failed a lot along the way. I had the freedom to fail, though. I had the freedom to try things, find out that I wasn't good at them, or for whatever reason wasn't going to work out. And then I finally hit a home run. And there's a lot of places around the world you don't get that. You know, where you are born is where you're going to stay the rest of your life. So for me, it was just a matter of ensuring that my grandkids especially will be able to take advantage of what I did, and they'll be able to live their own version of the American dream.
So you wanted to build a legacy.
Well, not really build a legacy for myself,
but for your kids to,
grandkids
to hang out.
I mean, I don't care if anyone ever says Glenn Jacobs did this. Okay, what I care is my grandkids, your grandkids. They're still going to be able to take advantage of everything this country has to offer. Yes. And that's very unique. And that's to me, that's what makes it special. We talk about all this other stuff, but the thing that makes America exceptional is the opportunities that people can create for themselves.
And I think a lot of times that even when people are going through things, they don't really see it could be worse. I come from Harriman, Tennessee, and I come from an educated family. And my grandfather was the very first black principal in Roane County. And my grandfather taught me at a young child. Now, let me just say, when he said this, I couldn't get it. But okay. He said, "What is your legacy going to be?" He said, "What will people remember you as?" He said, "Because what they remember you as will help them to realize that you can make it." Probably the difference between when you say, you don't care what they say about Glenn Jacobs, what he made, versus mine is because being a minority, it's like, okay, I told you off camera that our race is not trusting, so we need to see one of us. So what my grandfather was saying was, what is people going to remember you as in your legacy? Because
and what impact does that have on other people?
Exactly. You see what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
So that just shows the difference between our upbringings, but we're still trying to meet the same goal if you think about it. You know, it just was different growing up. And so tell me this, was there someone in between wrestling to becoming a mayor? Was there somebody that you would like to say, I want to give them their flowers. I want to say, you know, this person inspired me. This person really, really, you know, even if you didn't even talk to them, because a lot of people can inspire you from afar. Is there anybody that you would say that really inspired you to be a mayor? It may not be.
No, not really.
Yeah.
That was just a pathway that I saw, and something that
and that's okay.
Do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't have that many heroes because heroes are human beings and they're all flawed. Which I am too. Everybody is. You know, but I do look at ideas. For me, it's much more about the ideas and principles. as opposed to the people. And some folks embody those better than others, obviously. But I just,
you don't idolize people.
Yeah, I don't, because I do have some heroes, but I admire some of the things they did and their characteristics.
Correct.
But understanding that we're all still people and we all still have our flaws.
Okay. So when you decided to go down the mayor path, did you, the election process, did it feel overwhelming to figure out, okay, how am I going to, I want to be mayor, okay, but I don't know all the ins and outs of election and campaign and all this. How was that? Can you tell me what that process was like?
You've heard the term fake it till you make it.
My husband says
I'm a big believer in that. And seriously, every time you try something new, it's a little overwhelming. And also, you're also going to fail at stuff. I mean, that's just the way.
The unknown is overwhelming.
Right. I always tell young people, don't be afraid to fail, because if you fail, that means you're growing, you're expanding as a person. If you don't fail, you've never stepped outside of your comfort zone.
Yes.
And you don't know what the world has in store for you. So it's sometimes just have to get your feet wet and just jump right in.
Yes.
I tend to do that with things. At the same time, I've been extraordinarily blessed. I have, for whatever reason, I'm able to surround myself with really good people. And
say that.
That's the one.
My net viewers, he's going to say this one more time. Say it again.
I've been very blessed to surround myself with great people.
I think that is key to any success. You have to surround yourself with successful people that will share and that you can receive from.
Right.
I do.
I think it was Henry Ford said the key to being a great CEO is to hire people that are smarter than you are and to let them do their job. And that's exactly it. I mean, I don't know a lot of, the ins and outs. People will ask me stuff, and a lot of my answers are, I'll get back to you, because, frankly, this is a big job and it's multifaceted. There's a lot of things going on. I can't know everything. At the same time, I'm not an expert on a lot of this stuff.
I respect somebody that says, if I don't know something, they say, you know what, let me get back to you, Yvonnca. Now I want them to get back to me.
Right.
But I respect somebody, then someone just throwing out something, and then, because I may take that advice because you threw it out there and you set me up for failure because you didn't want to admit you didn't know the answer.
Right. Exactly.
So I can respect that.
And I think that's rampant in government and politics now. People just want to give folks the right answer.
Yes.
The answer they want to hear. I don't always do that. Sometimes I get a little trouble because I give people the answer, and it may not be the one they want to hear, but it's the truth. I just been very fortunate to have great people around me, to have a wonderful team. That was true really in everything I've ever done. And you're exactly right. We often think of our individual accomplishments and look, I did this. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people that no one has ever heard of, that no one will ever see, that helped you do that. And we should all be grateful for those that surround us and help us succeed.
So let's get into a little bit of the politic part of being a mayor. What did you envision, like when you first came into office? What was your vision for your position?
That's a difficult question because I've never been in government before, so I wasn't exactly sure. Basically I'm the county CEO, which means I'm the person that has to make all the decisions. And in the end, all of the, everything is, for better or for worse, my fault. And I always say, as a leader too, you should never take credit for things, because it might be your vision or whatever, but you're not the one that's actually doing all the groundwork. Okay, so it's your team that does that.
That's the truth.
But the blame always has to reside with you, because ultimately you're the person that makes the decisions. You're the person that puts people into whatever positions or into whatever situations. That's why when they say, that's what they mean when they say it's only at the top, actually.
Yes.
Because, you're the person up there, and again, if you're a good leader, you'll never hear a good leader say, oh, I did this. You'll hear them say, my team did this.
Yes, correct.
But when things don't go that way, they should be saying, this is my fault.
Yes. And take the responsibility.
Yes. And then, of course, obviously,
for the team.
No one wants to do that, but that's frankly, that's the job.
So tell me this, when it comes to the political parties, it's wild right now. It's wild. and there's right and then there's left. Is there a common ground? In your opinion?
I don't know anymore. And that's just being frankly honest.
I want you to be honest.
Because I just don't know anymore. We're so divided. We can't agree on virtually anything anymore. Yeah. And there was a point that we could, and the parties were, they're arguing about things which now we would, they weren't like foundational.
Yes.
Right? And now we're arguing about those things.
Yes.
And I'm very concerned about where our country's going because, how do we survive as a country when we are so divided? Geographically, New York is different than the South. California, the West, is different from the Midwest. I mean, very different. We're almost different countries. Mm-hmm. And ideologically, culturally, value-wise. And, so much of it is, in my opinion, is because it's political here. But the federal government has gotten so big and so powerful, and they're all one-size-fits-all policies instead of allowing localities to have more power in making those decisions. Okay, in which case, if you like the way California does things, you can live in California. If you like the way Tennessee does things, live in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Understanding that you're going to agree to disagree on some things.
Correct.
Instead of this, California's doing this and we hate them for that and they shouldn't be doing that. We're all going to make them do something different. Well, Tennessee's doing this and we hate them for that. We're going to make them do something different. And that's been almost completely lost at this point.
This is what how I feel, and this is what I say off the record in my house is I don't care if you want to vote as a Democrat or Republican. My biggest thing I tell everybody, know the policies, know who you're voting for, know that it's what you believe in, what their policies are. Don't go in the voting booth uneducated.
Right.
That's my biggest thing. And that's where I was raised. That's how I vote, and I look at my family and I'm like, okay, I'm voting for my family. When it comes to everybody in my household, I don't tell my daughter, you better vote for this person. I don't do that. But I do tell my kids, please read the policies. Right. Get an understanding, and don't go out here just voting just because the majority is saying this, because I just think that our country has got to a certain extent to that, is that if the majority is saying vote this way, we're going to vote this way, and some of the majority may not know what they're even voting for. And so that's why I was asking, is there a common ground, that type thing? Because my next question is, what would you say to the young people? Let me back us up a second. For the viewers out here, I don't believe in just voting for the presidential election. A lot of people don't realize that the local elections are very important. Mayor Jacobs just talked about how California does something, how Tennessee does something, and other states. You have to understand that your voice is going to be heard probably more in your city than it's going to be heard in a bigger scale. So I want to say this before I ask you that question. I wanted to say that is please vote for the local elections. Now,
100% agree.
You're 100% agree.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what would you say to young people that say they just became eligible to vote? What would you say, hey, here's what you need to do first?
Well, as you said, I think the most important thing is to understand policies. And when you're looking, when you're looking at personality, and what we do is we tend to look at personality first as opposed to policies. Okay, the most important thing is, look, is this person going to do what they say they're going to do? They may be a jerk, but if they're going to do what they say they're going to do, to me, that's much more important than someone that says, oh, I'm going to do all this great stuff, and they're a really nice person, or you think they're a really great person, and then turns out that they don't do that. Also, too often, essentially politicians bribe voters. I'm going to give you this. Well, what we need to be looking at is, are they preserving the ability for everyone to have opportunity? You know, it's not about getting stuff. It's about an environment where we can all thrive, where we can all succeed. Too often politics now is dominated by tribalism. You know, my group's going to get this, you know, this group wants to hurt you, all this stuff. Instead of saying what benefits everyone the most. We have some serious problems in this country. You look at the amount of debt in the system. I have a feeling that our economy is going to tank, which is going to be bad for everybody. And a lot of these other issues that dominate right now will not. You know, I always tell people, look, I can handle it if someone says, you need to fix these potholes. You need to mow the grass in the park. Okay, fine. We can do those things.
Yes.
What I don't want to hear is, how am I going to provide for my family? I don't have any money to have a nest egg for my kids' future. Those sort of things. You know, those are the stuff that's important to me. It's the ability for people to have successful, good careers. You know, I often say jobs. What I should be saying is career.
Well, there is jobs and then there is careers. You know, one's long lasting and
ultimately we want people to have good careers.
Correct. I will say this, in 2008 when the market tanked, you know, I was doing mortgages at the time, and how I became a realtor is I diversified because I didn't want to lose everything I had. That's just being honest.
That's being entrepreneurial.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the big thing is that, okay, I saw so many men. This was the hardest thing for me. Men that I knew that had worked 20, 30, 40 years on the job. Never missed a day. Or if they did, it was something very serious. They couldn't feed their families. It's like, what do you say to those men when you say, we can't do a mortgage for you because you missed a mortgage payment, you know, and they've been working all the time. So I get what you're saying, because at the end of the day, you know, your family has to thrive. Your family has, and a man, and I believe this, a man that can feed their family, you're going to have a happier man.
Oh, yeah.
But the day that you have a man that can't feed their family, and that man feels less than, and feels like they've failed their family, you're going to see families suffer, you're going to see marriage suffer, and you're going to see kids that are dysfunctional, because that aggression, or whatever you want to call it, people are going to vent. And I'm not talking in an abusive way. I'm just talking about in speaking.
No, you're right.
You're going to vent your frustration because we're human. And so I just feel like, okay, we have to get to a point that everybody thrives and everybody has to get up every day, go to a job, you know, and it can't be given. We have to work for it. And I tell my kids, I don't give to them. I'm like, okay, you got to work for it. And so we have to realize that that's what, take the word politics off of it. It boils down to, are you going to work for it, or are you wanting it given?
Right.
Do you agree?
I absolutely agree. And your point about men, that's really valid. When you asked me earlier, who am I?
Yeah.
One of the things I am too is I feel that I'm a provider for my family.
Yeah.
Okay. Now my wife is also.
Yes.
You know,
right.
she's a realtor too. She
yes.
works really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, if I don't feel that I can provide, that hurts my self-esteem.
It does.
I feel like a big failure.
Please speak this, because
a
lot of men need to hear this.
Right, and it's true, and that's fine. You know, it's just culturally, that's the role. That's what my dad did. That's just what I see. And
I think a lot of men need to hear the mayor say, as a man, if I can't provide for my family, it hurts my self-esteem, because a lot of men do not speak about their self-esteem. We all have self-esteem,
right?
Okay, and we all want to be successful and be on a top. But it's when you're not feeling like that for your family, the top, because you are supposed to be a provider. You are supposed to be the one that, you know, that the kids can come to and say, Dad's going to make it happen. But if your dad can't make it happen, he does go through things mentally that sometimes you don't get to hear. And so I commend you for saying that publicly, because a lot of men wouldn't.
And also, so my granddaughter,
yes,
she's 15.
Mm-hmm.
She just got her first job. I have never been prouder of her.
Oh, yes.
And she's a great kid.
Yes.
She just is. She's a wonderful kid. But both of my daughters are my stepdaughters. But both my daughters, her mom and her aunt, they both started working at the restaurant when they were like 10 or 12 years old. Now she's a little older than they are, but still, now and the restaurant's been sold to a different party now, but she's still working the same place.
Right.
And she doesn't have to.
Right.
Because, but it's important that she does. Because as you said, she has to learn that, look, the world owes you nothing. There are way too many people out there that think, I deserve this or that. The world doesn't owe you anything. Okay? You have to go out there and work. You have to create that for yourself.
You do.
That's one of the most important life lessons. And it's great because yesterday, it was raining, so she didn't work. And I was like, well, at least you got the day off. She's like, well, I like going to work. And I was like, yes.
Yes. You're like, yes. And let me say this. I know me and you talked about David's illness off record. When David got sick, literally we were having a cookout. David got sick on a Friday. By Saturday at 2:00, David was on life support.
Oh, man.
You can't prepare for that. Imagine if I wasn't working.
Yeah.
2008 would have been nothing to me.
Yeah.
I would have lost everything in 2013 if I wasn't working and providing. And bottom line is, I'm so glad that I was. And when I speak to women, I'm like, you never know what life is going to bring you. Your husband could get sick. Your husband could pass away. And we don't, you don't want to talk about those things, but it's just real.
Yeah.
And I commend your granddaughter because she said, I like working, that type thing. My Adrienne and Jaden, they like to work. And I just think that a lot of times that people don't realize that we're not in the times in the 60s when someone could stay home. Back then, there was some women that could stay home. There's more women are coming and saying, you know what? I want an identity. I want to be able to help my husband, because I do believe that y'all carry a lot, and your mental state of carrying it all can be hard on your health. So if you have a helpmate, I just feel like that it's less stress on you. Now, you may not agree with that, but I just think that that's where the American people have to realize is we have to work to what we want to have in life. So let's talk about public safety.
Okay.
Tell me, in Knox County, what is your thoughts of public safety right now?
So, the county and the city, we operate separately. Okay.
Correct.
And just because of the nature of urban environments, the city tends to have higher crime. We still have stuff in the county. I think that they're doing a lot better. And this is not, when I say doing a lot better, I'm not blaming anybody for anything.
Right.
Okay, this is
it's
a difficult environment.
Right.
But I think that especially with Chief Noel, he's brought some programs with him from New Orleans, and I think if you look at the stats, violent crime is down significantly in the city, and that's wonderful. And commend them for that, because there's a lot of places around the country that's not happening. So they're doing a really good job. Out in the county, again, it's a little different. I'm not over public safety. The sheriff handles most of that, obviously. But I think we're pretty blessed here in East Tennessee, because we have good people. Every place is going to have bad folks.
Our safety.
But especially when you look at other areas of the country,
correct.
And that's one thing. Folks are, oh gosh, you have this problem going on, and this problem going on, and we should never be complacent about things. But we also have to be realistic. We have a homeless problem. That's true.
We do.
But I was down in Dallas a couple of years ago in the springtime. Oh my gosh, I'm literally walking over people on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
Okay, you look at what's happening in some other places. We're doing some things that I think are having a good effect. But we also have to realize when we put stuff in a context of nationally or even statewide, this is a good place to live. We have our issues, we have our problems, we need to keep on working on those. But overall, I think this is a good place. We can always make it better.
Yeah, I totally agree. I am so enjoying my conversation with Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Get ready, because part 2 is coming to Talkin' Tennessee. Tune in every Friday to Talkin' Tennessee with Yvonnca. I am here to inspire you. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Talkin' Tennessee with Yvonnca. Watch out for our weekly episodes from the first family of real estate. And check us out on the web, www.yvoncasalesrealestate.com. See our videos on Yvonca's YouTube channel or find us on Facebook under Yvonnca Landes and Twitter @Yvonnca Landes. And don't forget to tell a friend about us. Until next time, Yvonnca signing off.